watching W.Media and I'm Deborah. We are coming to you from Mumbai CDC, which is the Mumbai Cloud and Data Center Convention and Awards 2023. Joining me now is our special guest, Mr. Manish Shangari from AECOM. Sir, would you like to begin by telling us how you have watched the Indian cloud and data center industry grow and evolve over the years?
Thank you, Deborah. First of all, thank you for having me here. I thank W.Media for organizing this event. I think we had today a great, participation from all parts of industry, which is pretty healthy, and it also shows the kind of momentum and growth which is coming in the sector. And to a very valid question, Deborah, which you asked, how have I seen this growth? I'll be very candid. I've actually entered this industry in big way only for the last decade. Prior to that, I was into more other buildings and I used to be in power. And it's been an incredible journey, I can tell you. We used to work, just to give you in simple terms, we would make data centers which would be not more than, say, 10 feet by 10 feet. That was the scale. People used to build data center in places like garage. There'll be perhaps, some 10-8 servers sitting in there and trying to work for local consumption, for office work. It would be just an extension of a computer center in office, perhaps made a little bigger.
So Jugaad version of edge data centers.
It was a Jugaad version of edge data centers was already existing. I still remember those days when I used to visit some data centers which were actually done in garage, and people were trying to put air conditioning with some envelopes and seeing how does it work. We just need less than 1 megawatt. So if we just operate like this, it doesn't make a difference. Eventually it was shifted to a rooftop, and then there was some Jugaad done on rooftop to work. And then that's how the industry kind of went to a point where now people are buying hectares of land. And the minimal number which we talk these days is 150 megawatt of IT power, which is not a small. And recently we did a project designed for somebody who wanted 1 gigawatt of power on a single site.
Oh my God.
1 gigawatt on a single site. And this is the journey only in 10 years. And I was thinking maybe this client is like, and it's not in India, it's in Middle East, and initially we were thinking, I think they're being very speculative, but I've seen in the last 2 years, they've actually gone ahead. They have built the infrastructure, they've built the requirements around that, and they're already getting up with the building. So in terms of scale, definitely this industry has grown up. Also, it took some time for people to understand what exactly this data center means. When I tried to correlate this in simple terms, I was giving an example recently. All things we used to keep with us in physical form, we transformed them into digital and kept on our personal storage devices. And from there, we thought, let's, instead of putting in our own devices, we actually put in a common server, which would be, say, in one place within a large office space. And from that network, we've gone to cloud, which means, you're storing all your data, for example, on your phone, and it is not in your phone, actually sitting in its cloud. And that cloud is nothing but a data center. Eventually, all that goes back to a storage space where you could actually store this data, and somebody is paying for this, for you to get that facility. And the last thing which people talk about AI in simple terms, you can feel is, your mobile would give you suggestions of your pictures. They will give you suggestions of deleting certain things. That's an AI working in background. So this is how compute power is getting done in a cloud, which is nothing but a data center. So the scale of data center, in my opinion, has really increased from something like 10, 15, 20 megawatt. In India, it's already 800 megawatt in the last 10 years. And now the demand which is coming is in large packets. Like each one is coming with 150, 200 megawatt of compute facility. So the scale has really changed. The style of the data center development has changed. Instead of sitting as a room in building, it has become a facility on itself, consuming huge power, storing huge fuel on site, consuming a lot of water, different cooling requirements, different environmental issues arising because of that. So it's a whole new industry which has evolved. And I think it's evolving still pretty rapidly. But the time right now is to see how do we go from here and what's next.
That is important, because whenever there's a boom, when the growth is so exponential, it's important to manage it right. What do you think we need to focus on in order to manage this growth?
So, Deborah, I think few things we need to focus on. 3 things data center always would need. One is power. It cannot run without power. Of course, we could bring in new technology, which could be less power hungry or less, less requiring cooling, but power will always be required. So we have to be very careful that we manage the demand for power as we ambition ourselves to grow the next leg of data center growth, which is definitely there. Second, we need to manage our resources. Resources could be the resources which are physical resources as well as people. Eventually, you need people to design data centers, to construct them, to operate them, to maintain them, and that resource is very short.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there is a skills gap, and it's not like we don't have enough engineering colleges or universities teaching science, technology. and mathematics. But what do you think is causing that skills gap? Why do you think we have so many educated people, but unfortunately they are not geared to this particular industry?
And I think this is very close to my heart. And I'll tell you one of the big reasons why we don't have this kind of talent available in the market. If you see the inherent nature of data center, essentially it's a storage space which is storing data, and there are servers, and because they're creating heat, we're cooling them. It's a non people building. Very few people are there. But to do this, speed and scale is critical. When we are operating in this kind of market, which is technology driven, every 3 years technology changes. Every 2 years there's a new demand which is coming in. So speed to the market is the most important thing in this space. When you say speed to the market, the only way you can get your data center running up quickly is when you have people who can appreciate wider disciplines, who can appreciate more than what they've just done in their own discipline. In Indian education system, I find most of the people are trained to become expert of only one field. Our education system is pretty old school, which means if somebody starts, for example, with a physics, chemistry, maths in say their early schooling, they most likely will end up say having a mechanical engineering. They will focus say mechanical or electrical, but they will only do that in a very theoretical way. And eventually, by the time they're out, if you ask them, how does it correlate to your skill which you have learned, which can be applied to a facility which we need to build very quickly, they would actually have to understand a bit about electrical. They would also have to understand a bit about land, something about building, something about environment. So that diversity.
Cross-sectional.
So it's a bit of cross-sectional thing. Otherwise, you can do things in sequential way, which takes a long time, or you can do things in a circular way, which means, for example, getting 10 people together, having a gathering, and all kind of closing themselves into a war room and sorting it out. To have that war room environment, you need people who can appreciate somebody else's knowledge and then work together towards solutioning this. That speed which is required to solution and the sensitivity which you should have to become a little more adaptive to others is not available in our education system. It takes a lot of time to make those people pliable and make them understand that other disciplines and other aspects of development are equally sensitive, and we must try to solve things cohesively. It should not be that, oh, I want only the light in this room should be such. It doesn't make a difference whether the color of the floor is good or not. But eventually, all have to be sensitive. Like, okay, if light is great, but we can't have a light more than certain level because it will be more expensive. Let's figure out, maybe we can lighten up the floor with a lower color. So it's like optioning, working together, solutioning and adapting themselves. And this, I think, also goes down to a point where talent in India is not trained to express themselves.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is a very interesting point I'm coming across. So the talent which I see in India when they come from the science background are trained to actually just repeat what they have been told in a very strict old school manner. There are very few people I find who have been given opportunity to debate or to write an essay or to actually give their ideas or speak about them. If you see people from art background coming in, they are much more flexible about it. They can express their ideas. They could argue, they could question, but incidentally, they don't have the technical skills. So if I were to, do something, I would rather merge them or make that mix together. And that cross section of industry at the teaching time is very important, which I see West already doing. For example, you can start doing mechanical engineering and you can end up doing in economics. We can't do that here. So you're very rigid in our system. And today, to do something like data center, which is very new, you don't have a course. So eventually, somebody has to be flexible to be allowed to venture into different sides. And that is missing. I'll give you a very relevant example. When I did my engineering from IITs, almost like 3 decades back, out in campus, I was doing only my subject, but I was lucky to be in a company called Siemens. And we were trained for about 2 years. Incidentally, I found my wife also in that graduate trainee batch, and we're still together, happily married. But all of us 50 people were trained for 1.5 years just to make sure everybody understands each other discipline. And they were like architects, mechanical, electrical, civil, environmentalists, all sorts of disciplines. And we eventually designed power plants. So it took 1 year for us to understand how all these disciplines work together to work as a power plant. And this skill which we developed for a year, nobody is actually training in this industry, which is very similar to now a data center or say very specialized building which will come in future. And I think this is a big gap. We're all trying to get our return of investment very quickly. We want people to be productive the day one they're in the office. We want somebody else to train them. And I think this is the gap we must fill. And this is a point which I was always talking, and I'm saying there are people in market now who could have come from different industry. They could be in their mid-career. It could be diversity, having women. It could be people who are retired, premature retirement, and we could actually bring them back. And they have at least gone through a maturity cycle in their life.
I'm glad you brought up diversity, because there's a lot of lip service paid to hiring more women. I think the problem lies more with retaining them. What kind of challenges have you noticed?
So one of the big challenge, I think, especially with women, if I take, they are actually very talented and focused,
and they don't
engaged
quit
staff.
easily.
And they don't quit easily, they're engaged. The thing here is, in women's life, often you go through a cycle where there are times which you have to focus a little more towards your family than your counterparts would be. If as an organization we are sensitive enough to allow that gradual change and build that flexibility into your system, it really works. One example, until about COVID, we were not a work from home company as AECOM. In COVID, I was running the big business, and in that, data center was one piece. This was the business which still continued to grow. Rest of the business stopped. And it could grow because all of our employees were still working from home. We became a 100% work from home company, and productivity was up. Interestingly, when COVID went away, we are still a work from home company. So we are carrying forward. We've reduced our office footprint. My team has almost become 4 times the size of that what we were.
Wow.
And we're now even becoming so flexible, saying, for example, if our office is in, say, Mumbai and Delhi, and somebody sitting in, say, Nagpur, and it's a talent which can contribute, we're saying, okay, you stay there and work, but you have to just come together on a collaborative platform, which again is a cloud-based platform. So interestingly, it's a circle coming back. So we've been able to build collaborative platforms where everybody could be in a room virtually talking to each other, but they just need a good bandwidth in their home and a nice office space. This has helped us retain a lot of women. Because of this, what they do, at times we've developed some discipline saying, okay, this is the time in my day I have to drop my daughter, this is the time I have to kind of cook, and the rest of the time I'll be focused. And people are saying, fine, you just put your slots and we won't disturb you. And this is building up. So we find with this flexible working, a lot more women have come back to us, a lot more women have been constantly engaged with us. And even I'm finding a lot of mid-career professionals are trying to come and be in this industry because it is making them more flexible. And I'm very hopeful about this. If our clients, if our partners all kind of adapt to this kind of culture, because then it will be very mainstream for these people. Otherwise, at times they're a bit hesitant to see whether we'll be taken so comfortably in industry. So we as AECOM are really investing and trying to bring this people and culture in the right spirit, and it's helping us.
That's really good to know. But there's another element which people are afraid of, and that's AI. It's perhaps, because it's been vilified in pop culture as well. But how do you see technologies like AI, ML, IoT, how are they revolutionizing the way we do things?
Absolutely. Now? And this is a very important question. I think the biggest fear, I was also afraid few years ago, thinking, what exactly is this AI? How will it really make an impact? Will every job go away? But when I'm finding more and more, getting deeper into it, talking to industry leaders, talking to some of my hyperscale clients, it's not that complicated. I think the idea of machines taking over everything is not really what's going to happen. The things where actually the AI teams are investing in are very simple things. For example, I don't know if you've experienced, I was making my upgrade of CV in LinkedIn. I was trying to uplift my CV and I was trying to write something. After about 10 minutes, I got a message that, would you like LinkedIn to give you an update on your CV? And I said, yes. So it just did nothing but concise my entire CV, remove certain things. And what I had written, something maybe say in about 700 words, was put down to 200 words. And when I read that, I thought, it makes sense. A lot of things I was writing perhaps would repeat. So this was nothing but AI working in background. So it could pick up some of those trends and intelligently give a solution. There are multiple things happening, like if you're using Teams. In Teams, the new AI which you will see is when you're talking, if you want, you'll press a button, the minutes will come on the right side. So it means that you will free up some of your time to do minutes, but you can then use that time to do some productive work, which is actually required to talk and solution the thing. I find right now people are doing a lot of administrative work, which is taking their creativity away.
True.
So what would happen in my view, a lot of repeat work, administrative work would become lesser, would be less available in the market. But creative work, meeting people, solutioning, selling, all this, which is real business, will continue to grow, and we still don't find enough people. Perhaps this will allow some free time to those people to focus and concentrate and become more productive. So I see AI actually as a help, it won't actually take a lot of jobs away for people who want to do something with passion. Very repetitive, administrative job, obviously may have some, impact. For example, you may need much lesser assistant. A lot of assistant work could be done. You may say, just book me a flight, Delhi, Mumbai, 7th. So all options could come and you may just have to click the button. Not somebody actually working for a few hours sorting it. But that person will free up and do something more productive in the same industry. That's my view. Yeah.
After people, let's talk about another thing which is a huge buzzword, that's sustainability.
Yeah.
There was a whole conversation about it. Since COP last year, COP this year as well. How sustainable are Indian data centers? We know they're secure, we know they're smart, but where are we on that step?
So I would say, see, India as a country, we are very frugal by our nature. I find in India, if I compare the productivity norms globally, India data centers are highly productive. They are used for parallel processing. All the things which would be done to keep them lean are already there. But the thing which we are missing, we're still not very serious about using green power. We are saying we can get away with that because our current administrative system or our regulatory doesn't force us to compulsorily go for green power. Some of our hyperscalers are actually driving this demand and this kind of request, which other colo and developers will follow through. If I look at current state, our India data center are not green. But the scale which will emerge in future, the way we are working, we won't be able to sustain. We are in sustainability. I go beyond power. I think sustainability is also being socially responsible.
True.
Also being responsible in a way where you have to look at things which we are very poor at. And that's what we have to improve. For example, I could actually get to a supplier. I can use a supplier which is having, child labor. It's non-sustainable.
Oh.
So at this moment, as a large client, I may say, no, I'm just actually procuring some cables. I'm procuring some, raw material. I really don't want to know how they got produced. But if I look a little deeper, I may find, okay, I'm using a supplier which is actually using child labor. I should not use that. Or somebody who's actually, not paying their staff properly, or somebody who are using women are not paying equally.
But do you think that is a case of overlooking these things purposely, like chalta hai, or it's inadvertently people are not looking at this?
It is as a DNA, because we have come through such a plight. India, I would say, is just 100-year-old country right now because we came through such a plight. So we have actually ignored other people's status. We believe what I need as a product or a service is the end which I want to know. I don't really deliberately want to see how difficult it was for somebody else or how painful it is for somebody else to give that service. I think it's a holistic approach which needs to change in this country. It's not about data center, but it's a cultural change. The moment the cultural change triggers, it will automatically get to this sustainability thing, because eventually, if you help get to better, ESG compliant environment, the whole country will lift up. The resources which are available, they will become much more mature, much more productive. At this moment, if you look at India, have large resources, but there's very few productive resources because we are not giving them right opportunity. We are putting them in silos, and we are not being sensitive about this point that we have to have a wider ecological development. We can't be just the sucker of the system all the time. And I think that's a sentimental thing which is coming. And I'm finding this generation entrepreneurship and the last generation successful leaders are actually now becoming much more sensitive to this. They are actually giving charity back to the community and trying to bring the marginal workforce back into the system. But I think it's a change which we all have to consistently drive, keep talking every day. Even simple things like men in depression is something we don't talk in our industry. We don't want to talk something which is not good. We want to just see movies which have happy songs where everything ends up well. As a country, we don't
completely ignore the LGBT community.
Exactly. So we just think everything, when you want to see the good part, you don't want to see the hard part, and invest your time and being a little sensitive. And these are simple things. For example, I may ask somebody to bring me a cup of tea, or may say, I'll walk halfway, you walk halfway, I'll pick it from your hand. Just a little effort like this creates your mental change.
It's about respect.
About respect to everybody. And that enriches your ecosystem. So while we have drifted away to this conversation, eventually it all comes back to where we are, and then being sensitive about who all are participating in this growth and event, and how responsibly we are behaving back towards them.
Because we're going to grow together, right?
We're going to together. If we marginalize certain section of our society, it will come back as a load to us eventually, which is unproductive, mismanaged, and maybe gone completely ruckus way. And then we say, okay, this section of society is a burden for us. We've created that burden for ourselves. We need to take
we are the architects of our own
misery. We are the
misery.
architects of our misery here, and it starts from every small development we do. And in data center, as we were talking today, is something which is fastest growing. It is attracting everybody.
True.
It's a matured market. Talented people are coming into it. Learned people are there. So at least this is a sector it's a new sector. So it's always good to start something new on a cleaner slate than to fix something which has been like in a rotten state. So
that is so profound.
Yeah.
That is so profound.
So when it's such a young industry and it is such global in nature, with people with different mindsets already been here, I think we should together create an example which maybe other industry will also follow.
Finally, sir, you've been a speaker here at Mumbai CDC. What have you found most attractive about this experience? What excites you the most?
So to be honest, I've been in this event in past as well. But every time I come back, I find this event has grown. It has become richer. It has become much more diverse than it was. I find different new players coming in, also different section of people coming from different part of the world. Always Mumbai is a very vibrant city. And the thing which really makes difference here is when I come here, I come with an open mind, but when I go very optimistic. So always there's a feeling of optimistic positivity around here. It's a small event. It's not an event which is like hundreds and hundreds of people have come in. So it's like a family event. You get to talk to everybody here. And I think it's a nice way of doing specialty events rather than, opening for people just who walk around and go away. So everybody who is here at least knows what they're coming for. It's a very good event. I would suggest people to actually come here prepared rather than just coming and watching the stands. If they come and do a little bit of reading, they can learn a lot from here. And that what they learn from here could be applied to multiple industries, because I see this this conclave is a very mature conclave, and it sets a lot of example for others to follow.
Thank you so much for those generous and kind words, and thank you for joining us
Deborah.
today. Many more such interviews will be bringing you through the day from Mumbai CDC. In the meantime, I'm Deborah in Mumbai.